Today on Investigate TV, hazing incidents across America threaten college students.
They betrayed me and they almost killed me.
We investigate a web of protections surrounding national fraternities, often protecting them from liability.
It's meaningless insurance. They are absolutely paying for nothing.
Plus, a teen overdoses while FaceTiming with his friends. Now his family blames his death on a popular social media app.
They need to own up to what is happening on their platform.
Investigate TV starts right now. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV. I'm Lee Zurich. As college kids head back to school, some will join fraternities. Those who do will shell out hundreds of dollars for insurance required for membership. But our team discovered the protection they pay for may be meaningless, thanks to what one attorney calls a, quote, scheme. While not all national fraternities operate this way, national investigative reporter Joce Sterman discovered many are able to shift the liability for hazing and alcohol incidents back to fraternity members.
What were you thinking about your future in that moment?
Nothing but the best, nothing but a bright future ahead.
Nicholas Maurizio was lit up from the inside on college acceptance day. You can see it all over his face. It's there again just a couple months later when he stands with bags in hand on move-in day at Florida State. But the bright-eyed boy in pictures the Maurizio family sent to college didn't come home with that same shine. What do you notice most?
His spark in his eye. He's done very well, but again, that spark, Nicholas, like it's not there anymore. That gleam in his eye.
His hopeful gleam is gone, replaced by eyes that often glaze or close altogether as Nicholas struggles to search his mind for the right words. They're still hard to find sometimes, one of many casualties of a traumatic brain injury he suffered on campus. That punch changed your life forever.
Forever.
A punch that knocked Nicholas out and knocked his family's world off its axis.
Well, our whole family has been destroyed by this. Well, almost destroyed. We're stronger than that, but it's really put a toll on our family.
It started April 2018. Florida State was already reeling from a recent fraternity hazing incident that had killed student Andrew Coffey and shut down Greek life for months. Nicholas was attending his first meeting as a brother of Alpha Epsilon Pi when he was picked for a long-standing fraternity tradition he'd never heard of, a dubious honor court records label Scumbag of the Week. The nomination, he says, came from a brother who didn't like seeing him napping in the frat house as he was tired from balancing a full course load and a job. The punishment, Nicholas was told, was a literal slap in the face. He expected nothing more.
Cocked his fist back and hit me as hard as he could. I got knocked out completely on contact. I had blood dripping from my mouth from a broken molar. I ended up falling backwards. I fell straight back. My head hit the pavement, cement floor.
It took 4 brothers to carry Nicholas's unconscious body into the car and 5 days for him to be discharged out of the intensive care unit of a Florida hospital, where he was treated for a fractured skull and a brain bleed that caused permanent damage. The bonds of brotherhood, he says, were broken by one punch, with blows that just keep coming from the memory problems, migraines, PTSD, and panic attacks that continue to plague him.
It broke me, Josie, and just, can you pause just for a second?
Absolutely. What happened inside this fraternity house put Nicholas's life on pause for half a decade. 5 years of a promising future spent on setbacks and struggles, in recovery and seeking accountability for what happened. His family sued the young man who hit him, 6 of his fraternity brothers, and the national fraternity, claiming leadership at AE Pi knew about the hazing problems at the Florida State chapter that had gotten them officially booted from the university just 3 months before Nicholas's incident. But they still took no action to enforce their own policies and protect him.
They kind of like to go under the assumption that even though we're a national fraternity, we're not responsible for what our local chapters do. Like, that's their position that they're put in, and I think that kind of skates them away from responsibility most of the time.
It's a tactic our national investigative team discovered is standard operating procedure in an industry responsible for at least 67 hazing deaths and countless injuries in the last 23 years. We spent months interviewing experts and reviewing lawsuit filings, tax records, and industry documents, uncovering a complex system where national fraternities separate themselves from their local chapters to protect against legal and financial liability in worst-case scenarios, all while profiting off a risk they're well aware of.
The top of the fraternity industry has lots of very smart men that take the advice of lawyers with a great deal of experience on how to evade responsibility for the injury and death they cause.
Doug Fearberg has his own experience as an attorney battling on the other side, representing dozens of hazing victims. Those legal battles have helped him pull back the curtain on a fraternity system he says uses secretive schemes and tactics that allow national organizations to assert control over local chapters when it suits them, while also washing their hands of responsibility when it doesn't. How they've done it is outlined in a confidential memo he supplied to our team from a meeting of the Fraternity Executives Association more than 10 years ago.
Is it a smoking gun?
It's a gun they never wanted to be seen, and it's a gun that they would do their level best to prevent the public from knowing about. So they know exactly what they're doing. This isn't the only time, I'm sure, that they were presented ways to evade litigation and responsibility.
One way outlined in the memo is a strategy called conscious separation, where national fraternities are encouraged to limit their awareness and oversight of what happens at their local houses, because more involvement equals more potential liability, with executives told prior knowledge of improper acts is fatal.
Conscious separation is a charade created by the lawyers for the national fraternities.
But is it just the appearance of separation?
It's the appearance of separation when separation is necessary to prevent individuals who've been hurt or killed from recovering against the entity that should be paying.
The question of who pays when a fraternity member is harmed by hazing or alcohol is its own complicated issue, and it ties back to a cult classic from decades ago. In the late 70s and early 80s, the movie Animal House put frat culture front and center, glamorizing binge drinking and hazing among brothers. Insurance companies, insiders say, wanted out of the family fast, essentially abandoning the industry as alcohol and hazing-related deaths skyrocketed.
We needed to do something.
David Eastlick was a brother at Delta Kappa Epsilon, or DEEC, in the 1960s. He now testifies against fraternities as an expert witness in hazing cases. For decades, he was the executive director of DEEC's national organization and part of the movement to solve the industry's crisis by banding frats together to create their own insurance system, eventually controlling and providing the liability coverage for local chapters and rolling in the profits.
It gave leverage to the fraternities that they, for the first time, they could really collect money from the undergraduates and count on their loyalty and get their money.
It's big money. Tax records from 63 fraternities we examined show many of their insurance premiums are close to or exceed $1 million a year, with a cost covered by the college students in each local chapter, who have no choice but to pay if they want to be a member. One fraternity tax records show has almost $20 million in assets derived in part from insurance premiums. Another, more than $7 million.
So now you have a circumstance where the national fraternities actually profit on the insurance companies that they own related to the risk that they create and refuse to change.
But there's another big secret the national fraternities want to keep quiet about their liability insurance.
Coming up next on Investigate TV, we reveal who actually ends up paying when someone is hurt or killed in a fraternity hazing incident. Welcome back to Investigate TV. We told you about what some experts call a secretive scheme that many national fraternities across the nation are using to shift responsibility in worst-case scenarios involving alcohol and hazing. So who's really paying the price? Joce Sterman picks up the story.
When something goes wrong and someone gets hurt in a fraternity because of hazing or alcohol abuse, insurance policies often end up covering the settlements. But we discovered the policies paid for by individual fraternity members as a requirement to join generally give full coverage to the national organization, but leave the college students involved virtually unprotected.
It's an amazing thing. The kids are paying all the insurance money, the entire premium for the nationals, and they're not covered. But it's meaningless insurance. They are absolutely paying for nothing.
Those insurance policies, we discovered, are based on risk management guidelines created decades ago when national fraternities couldn't get insurance and had to find a way to reduce risk to secure coverage. Those standards are still used and would void liability coverage if violated. Our team examined risk management policies publicly available online and found provisions prohibiting what experts would say is fairly common fraternity behavior, including drinking games, supplying alcohol to minors, the purchase of kegs, the use of alcohol on traditionally deadly ritual nights like bid night, and hazing.
Knowing that these activities routinely happen in fraternities, is this just nonsense and lip service essentially to have these policies laid out?
It's essentially a big joke.
A joke orchestrated by the national fraternities that create and implement those policies, but then also claim the rules can't be enforced at a high level, with depositions of fraternity executives repeatedly showing them shifting enforcement responsibilities onto teenagers and young men barely old enough to drink.
We don't oversight, we provide support. We're an education self-governance organization.
They've been able to convince courts in various jurisdictions that they're somehow unable to control the day-to-day operations of the fraternity, which is just absolute total bull.
The lobbying group that represents fraternities nationally wouldn't do an interview, but says its members are committed to health and safety as evidenced by those risk management policies, and that their members encourage accountability. That's why they say they don't provide coverage for actions that intentionally endanger others, break the law, or violate fraternity policies. Half a dozen other organizations and individuals that represent fraternity executives, advisors, attorneys, or their insurance companies wouldn't comment, despite repeated requests since early June.
If your insurance premiums continue to go up because something you are doing is wrong, you tend to change that. There's an incentive to changing that. But with the way the fraternities have insulated themselves and played this charade, their mothership has never truly gotten hit financially.
Instead, it's the fraternity members who pay. And without coverage from the national fraternity insurance they paid for, settlements, we've learned, end up coming from a surprising source, the homeowner's insurance of their parents.
And I don't think that anyone knows until it happened.
It's something Nicholas Maurizio's family was stunned to learn. Their attorney confirmed the family ultimately resolved civil litigation with 8 individuals linked to the fraternity, with several suits settled through their parents' homeowners insurance. The Maurizio's case against Alpha Epsilon Pi was also resolved, although the fraternity wouldn't comment further about the case, saying only they continue to invest in their health and safety program, working hard every day to educate and train their members and reform risky behaviors.
You think that they understand the toll that this has taken on all of you?
No, not one bit.
Nicholas and his family believe the national fraternity avoided the kind of major blow he couldn't. 5 years after that punch, he's still in treatment, still trying to find the future he lost when a fraternity tradition knocked him down for the count, but not out for good.
I've made a good recovery, Joce, but I'm still making strides and progress every single day.
It's still a battle.
Yes, and it will be a battle for the rest of my life.
There are questions about how well-informed fraternity members are about insurance coverage exclusions related to hazing and alcohol. Although some documents we've seen do inform members they could lose coverage, it's often buried deep in the materials they're given, and then it's left in the hands of the chapter to distribute those materials and make sure that members are informed at annual meetings.
Coming up, an ongoing lawsuit against the social media app Snapchat after more than 24 young people die of fentanyl poisoning.
Watch me. He took the pill. And then what happened afterwards? He stopped breathing.
That story after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. 27 families from across the nation are suing Snapchat. They accuse the popular social media app of being a conduit for drug dealers to reach children. Angie Riccono in Kansas City, Missouri spoke with one family who blames Snapchat for the death of their son.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Cruz, we miss you so much, man. We're gonna be together again someday.
15-year-old Cruz Burris died from a fentanyl poisoning in January.
I cry inside on a daily basis.
His parents are crushed by his death. They miss everything about their son.
Cruz was incredibly vivid. He was a huge personality. He just was.
The Burris family claims Cruz was enticed by a post on Snapchat. A dealer delivered the pill to their home while the parents slept. Cruz thought it was Percocet. Little did he know it was laced with fentanyl. Cruz took the pill while he was FaceTiming with friends.
Watch me. He took the pill. And then what happened afterwards? He stopped breathing.
Yeah.
Then his heart stopped. And then he died. He died.
The friends texted Cruz's sister, but she was asleep, and the family found him the next morning, and it was too late.
I immediately pulled him down and did CPR. Did CPR on my dead son.
The family blames the dealer and are hopeful for criminal charges as investigators trace social media and phones. They have harsh words for Snapchat.
You know who is online. That is your platform. That is your responsibility. And they need to own up to what is happening on their platform.
The Burrises are among 27 families suing Snapchat, arguing the social media giant helps dealers connect with children and teenagers. Even though Snapchat is not the most popular social media app among teens, it places fourth, it facilitates the overwhelming majority of lethal counterfeit prescription drug sales involving social media and children, teens, and young adults. The lawsuit points to disappearing messages and claims that makes it ideal for criminals, and claims Snapchat knows or should know that.
They are not willing to implement any safety design features that will reduce engagement with their products and advertising revenue they receive. That is why we have this problem. You don't need disappearing messages.
So you believe the way Snapchat works, it makes it particularly appealing to drug dealers?
Not only do I believe it, the evidence shows it.
We contacted Snapchat. A spokesperson sent this response. At Snap, we are working hard to stop dealers from abusing our platform. We do this by employing certain technologies, working closely with law enforcement, collaborating with other technology companies, and by having a zero-tolerance policy where we shut off the infringer's account. We checked to see if the accused drug dealer in Cruz's case was still on the platform. We couldn't find him, but the attorney representing dozens of families says he's aware of one case where a young person died from fentanyl poisoning. The dealer remained on Snapchat, and another young person died a year later.
I thought it was a safe platform for children to use.
The Burris family says they never considered Snapchat dangerous until their son died. They joined the lawsuit hoping for accountability and speaking out to warn other parents.
I just can't wait to see you again. I love you. So, Cruz, my son.
The latest federal data shows more than 200 people die every day from fentanyl. 75,000 people died last year. The vast majority of them are unintentional, like Cruz. Coming up, website fine print. How often do you read what you're agreeing to? For one woman, not seeing the fine print landed her on a telemarketing call list. How she fought back after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Nearly 250 million Americans have signed up for the National Do Not Call Registry. That's according to the latest FTC data. The registry was designed to stop unwanted sales calls, but millions of people complain each year they get calls anyway. Carice Jackman spoke with a woman who decided to fight back after she claims her phone number was released without her consent.
If you ask what annoys Heather Gaker, it's getting constant calls from strangers.
I just really don't like them, and I think it's an intrusion of our privacy and interrupts our day.
She takes her privacy seriously. It's why she says she signed up to be on the National Do Not Call registry provided by the FTC. However, Gaker says in 2020, she received 7 unwanted calls from a corporation that argued she gave the okay to get telemarketing calls when she provided her information on a sweepstakes website.
I basically fell victim to falling into the trap of giving my information, my consent unknowingly for them to give my information to hundreds of other people.
Gaker's attorney, Jay Ginsburg, says websites like these make the fine print of consent too small and confusing for people to understand.
The website does everything it can to divert the consumer's eyes away from the fine print camouflage telemarketing language and instead to look at the dollar signs and the colorful letters that say, where should we send your money? So in discovery, we realized what was supposedly entered.
Gaker filed a lawsuit stating the company violated the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, or TCPA, by placing telemarketing calls to her cell phone without her prior consent, despite her being on the Do Not Call registry. Is this a nationwide issue that we're dealing with here?
It is very much a nationwide issue. Heather alone, when she went to this website, her data was passed on to hundreds of different telemarketers. And there are countless other people who submit this site. It's not just sweepstakes. There have been other cases where courts have found telemarketing consent from sweepstakes to be invalid.
In the end, the judge agreed, saying that each of the 7 calls to Gaker constituted a violation of the TCPA. The court awarded Gaker the maximum $500 for each violation, totaling around $3,500. Gaker wants consumers to know they too have a right to fight for their privacy and for companies to respect it.
It wasn't really about the money for me, but my whole thing about these telemarketing calls are I want them to stop.
We reached out to the company Ginsburg took to court but have not heard back. It's free to register your home or cell phone number with Do Not Call Registry. Just go to donotcall.gov or call 1-888-382-1222. Your phone number should show up on the registry the next day, but it can take up to 31 days for sale calls to stop. And that's it for us. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV. Hope to see you next week.